This is a standard dose of acetaminophen. To the average person, it's literally one of the cheapest commodities on earth, costing you less than 10 cents a pill to buy for yourself at Target. So why did a single one of these little pills show up on somebody's hospital bill for over $500? Everybody knows that drug prices are ridiculous in the US, but this isn't that. This isn't even a name brand drug. It's a generic that costs pennies to make. I wanted to know where that extra $500 goes. So I decided to investigate the journey of this 10-cent pill. What I found explains exactly why the American medical system is so broken. Let's dive in. So first things first, why does a single acetaminophen pill cost 10 cents for you and me to buy at the store? That's ridiculously cheap. Well, because this is a generic pill, the vast majority of it is made at massive chemical plants, primarily in India and China, where the active raw ingredients are now manufactured by the metric ton. When you factor in automated mass pressing, chemical binders, quality control, bulk shipping, container transport to Western markets, all of this is the reason why the cost plummeted to a fraction of a penny. Even when packaged and distributed to a retail pharmacy shelf, you and I can walk into a local CVS, Walmart, or wherever and purchase a bottle of 500 generic tablets for under $10. That breaks down to just 1 or 2 cents per pill. And while baseline hospital markups frequently hit $1 or $2 per pill, specialized medical billing defense audits have uncovered far more extreme scenarios. eLab Services documented a real itemized hospital invoice for somebody featuring a single charge of over $500 for one acetaminophen tablet. So how does that possibly happen? Well, our single pill's been made, but now everybody always talks about how middlemen are jacking up healthcare prices. Let's see what they do to this pill. So leaving the factory, the very first stop is the multi-billion-dollar world of pharmaceutical wholesalers, the people moving the drugs. In America, just 3 corporations, McKesson, Concora, and Cardinal Health, control nearly 90% of all legal drug distribution across the US. Their job is to move billions of pills and medical products to different hospitals and pharmacies around the US. And they do make some money off of this, but for our specific tablet, their added cost is virtually nothing. It's still a 2-cent tablet. So the big giant pharmaceutical distributors are out. They're not the reason why this pill is jumping to a $500 charge on somebody's hospital bill. Let's move on to our next prime suspect, a middleman that most people have never heard of. This is the Group Purchasing Organization, or GPO. And to understand why they even exist, think about leverage. A single hospital buying 100,000 acetaminophen pills has very little bargaining power with drug makers. So hypothetically, they could get bad pricing. So to avoid that, hospitals will team up under this GPO and they'll group thousands of medical centers and hospitals together to negotiate lower prices by buying in massive bulk. It's like going to Costco and buying a big bulk pack of toothpaste. You're gonna pay less for that than you would if you just go to the store and buy one single one. Now here's the thing when it comes to GPOs. They do make money by charging fees to the exact drug makers that they sign contracts with, meaning the bigger the drug deal, the more money the GPO makes. Yet even with them getting a small piece of the pie, this pill is still less than 10 cents when it enters the hospital's doors. So what happens next? So before entering the hospital, our generic pill has followed normal economic rules, meaning it's still a cheap generic pill. But the minute it crosses through those doors, all economic rules just go out the window. Inside the hospital, every item given to or used on a patient, including our now 10-cent pill, gets assigned an official billing code and a brand new price. The list that shows these prices is called a hospital's Chargemaster. Now, Chargemaster prices are higher for a multitude of reasons, but the primary excuse given from hospitals is that they increase prices because it costs a lot of money to run a hospital. For our specific pill, they take into account that the hospital pharmacy has to put it into a bottle, a pharmacist has to check it to see that you aren't allergic to it. Nurses need to give it to you a cup, probably at 3 a.m. because they're off their shift at 6. And they had to pay for the automated dispensing cabinets that cost thousands and thousands of dollars to hold that medication. You get the idea. But research confirms that these Chargemaster prices bear no relation to real-world acquisition costs. They typically sit at 3 to 10 times higher than the actual hospital operational costs. Many hospitals publicly defend these massive markups by saying that it's really expensive to run the hospital, as I said, but also they lose money on programs like Medicare and Medicaid. And I don't want to be totally one-sided here. I'm sure hospitals do lose money, some at least, to Medicare and Medicaid programs. They basically have to provide services to people with capped costs. But one of the things that hospitals don't say is that extreme price increases exist for a strategic purpose too, one that works out really well for them. If a hospital listed the true, honest cost of giving you a single acetaminophen pill at $1, then your insurance company would attempt to negotiate how much they'd reimburse the hospital down to 50 cents. So to protect their profit margins, hospitals artificially inflate the baseline price on the Chargemaster to an absurd level, such as the case of the $500 charge for a single acetaminophen pill. And in these negotiations between a hospital and an insurance company, the insurance company always wants a discount. That way they can tell employers and patients that they lowered your cost. But wait, do they really want a discount? Under federal law, health health insurance companies are bound by something called the medical loss ratio. They can only keep 15 to 20% of your premium dollars, the amount of money that you spend on insurance, for administration and for profits. The remaining actually has to be spent directly on medical care. I'm not saying anybody does this, but an insurance company cannot grow their corporate profits by cutting healthcare costs. If total medical spending drops, their pool of profit shrinks. So if you just look at incentives, it benefits hospitals and insurance companies more if the Chargemaster rates are higher, which is why our 2-cent acetaminophen pill can show up as a $500 on somebody's hospital bill. If you found this video interesting, you'd like to see more like it in the future, please consider subscribing for more. This is Tyler Dutchover. Thanks for watching.